Okay, brothers and sisters, thank you.
Thank you. What's our time frame, Father? How much do I have? How long should I talk? An hour. Bravo. Should I do these and then once I've gone through these, take questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Wonderful. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Christ is risen.
Truly is risen.
We're back at the wonderful subject of family life. This is part 2 of the 27 parts that we're going to be doing between now and next Thursday. I'm going to be standing the whole time. I'm ready for this. It's no problem. I have some wonderful questions that you all submitted, which I'm going to turn to just as soon as I read you a few more quotes from the Golden Mouth himself about the importance of the family and believers in the church caring for our neighbors and extending ourselves to their care. Okay, I just want to seed you before I address these. I want to seed you with some patristic gold to warm your hearts to be able to accept my counsel. So I'm going to read you 5 short quotes, okay, from all different aspects of his corpus, portions of his corpus. The fast will profit us nothing if we pass through it as a mere matter of course without any result. If I promised you a piece of gold, you would labor for the reform of your brother, but God has promised you much more. Do not neglect your neighbor's safety. For this reason, it is that we are placed with one another, that we inhabit cities. This is the reason that we meet together in churches, in order that we may bear one another's burdens, and that we may correct one another's sins. You hear his Chrysostom's corporate concept of communal life in the parish, in our cities, in our towns, right? It's not just for our own salvation. If we want to be saved, which we should, we have to be concerned with our neighbor's salvation, not just our own. This next quote is from his 7th homily on Genesis. We are responsible both for the salvation of our neighbors and their loss. Ooh. This one from homily 41 on Genesis. Do not neglect your brothers, therefore, nor consider only your own concerns. Instead, let each of you be anxious to snatch your neighbor from the jaws of the devil and from the illicit spectacles, which was a very common thing, the shows, the public shows and plays in ancient Antioch were notoriously immoral. Snatch your neighbor from the jaws of the devil and those illicit spectacles and lead him to the church. This is from the 88th homily on the Gospel of John. There are indeed many other things which are able to give us boldness towards God and to show us bright and approved. But that which most of all brings goodwill from on high is the tender care for your neighbor. This next one is from homily 25 on his commentary on 1 Corinthians. Nothing can so make a man an imitator of Christ as caring for his neighbors. Nay, though thou shouldst fast, though thou should lie on the ground, and even strangle thyself in search of God, take no thought for thy neighbor. You have done nothing significant. Wow. All right, first question. How would a wife, mother, artist, and potentially future career, this sounds very juicy, current seminarian wife balance all of those roles when each seems to demand an all or nothing mentality? What a wonderful question. And certainly, anybody who's married, who's a parent, and is also taking on the potential task, is being trained for the task of being a spiritual mother, being the wife of a priest, which requires all sorts of stretching of the heart, because when you become a priest's wife, you share in your husband's relationship to the parishioners, which means you have to put them in there. You have to put them in there. Think with me for a minute about your heart. You know the heart's the very center of your being, your very core. And it's this where Christ lives. Jesus comes in holy baptism and takes up his residence in the inner man, in what the fathers call the deep heart. It's understood by him even better than it's understood by us. The Lord knows your heart better than you know your heart. And he's there. He's in the inner recesses of your being. He's not going anywhere. You can either pay attention to him and cultivate his residence there, or ignore him. It's possible to do that. But that's where he lives in us believers. The Holy Spirit, St. Paul said, is shed abroad in our heart. The love of God is deep inside. And from that position, the Holy Trinity saves us, teaches us how to relate to God as our Father, for instance. This is a work of the Holy Spirit from the inner man. He literally helps us cry out the words Abba, Father, to learn how to live our lives in relationship to God from the inside. Your heart, besides being the sacred inner sanctum, is also something that is supposed to grow. It's supposed to expand. You do this by yourself growing up and accepting more and more responsibilities in your life. When you get married, good marriages are marriages in which each spouse has put the other in there. So you have to stretch it. And the concerns of your wife, if you're a man, the concerns for your husband, if you're a woman, have to become your concerns, your immediate concerns. God's will is that we care for each other exactly as we care for ourselves. The goal would be, if you have a toothache, you wake up and you've got some terrible toothache, I mean, you're going to do something about it, right? The chances that you're not going to do something about it, very low. But what if your wife wakes up with a toothache? Do you just pat her on the head and say, hey, honey, I hope you feel better? Or do you take the relief of that toothache exactly as though it's your tooth? Not just a little pat on the head. No, a real concern, an equal concern. St. Paul says this in his teaching on marriage that we incorporate into the wedding service, into the crowning service, right? His beautiful teaching in Ephesians 5, where he says that the husband loves his wife as his own flesh. What happens to her is happening to him, and he learns to expand his heart and to take his wife's concerns and the wife, their husband, exactly as his own. Your heart has to get big. Then you have children. And after each one, you don't know how you're going to survive. You really wonder how you're going to survive, and can I get through another night, getting up in the middle of the night? But you learn. You learn. And you learn by falling, you learn by practice, and next thing you know, you've got your children in there. If you have one, you have to fit that child in there. If you have two, you have to, and the heart gets bigger and bigger and bigger. This is God's will. St. Paul, in his epistle, second epistle to the Corinthians, describes this process of the expanding heart, and he describes himself. He says to the entire church in Corinth, I have you all in my heart to live together and to die together. You're all in there. He was able, as an apostle, to get the entire church of Corinth, all his spiritual children, into his heart. And this is the goal of being a priest. When you're a priest and as a pastor, you spend your whole priesthood trying to get your parishioners in there. Good priests are in a constant, torturous surgery of expanding their hearts and letting the concerns of their parishioners become theirs, such that they really, when they call him Father, he really is one. This is the process. The end goal is what? The end goal is to become all heart. That's the goal of life. So that you end your life 100%. That's all you are, is a heart. You end yourself as a heart. I got that from Father Zacharias in Essex. I asked him once, because he loves to talk about the inner heart. You know, many of his books. St. Sophrony, when he was still with us, told Father Zacharias, who's a wonderful archimandrite at the monastery of St. Sophrony, St. John the Baptist, but that St. Sophrony built in 1959 in England and is still going strong today. That St. Sophrony taught him this, that you have to put everybody inside of your heart. And I asked him, well, what's the ultimate goal? He said, Father, the ultimate goal is to become 100% heart. I'm like, yes, what a very beautiful vision. So it's painful, and how do you do it? How do you keep your priorities, and how do you get all of these people in there? You do it by getting up every single time you fall down. You get up. You've heard that beautiful story from the Desert Fathers? The person who went out to meet the fathers in the desert because he had no idea what they were doing out there all day. He said, Father, what are you doing out there? He said, it's very simple. We fall down and we get up. And we fall down again and we get up again and we fall down again and we get up again. This is the Christian life. When you're a person with lots of responsibilities, you have to keep them in order. You have to keep them in order. Bishop Basil, when he ordained me in 1993. Are you ordained in 1993? 2003. Okay, that was a 3. I knew there was a 3 in there. When Bishop Basil ordained me in 1993, he told me, he said, Alukabuna. He said, you were Christ before you were your wife's. You were your wife's before you were your children's. And you were your children's before you were your parishioners. Keep it that way. Wow, when he said that, it deeply impacted me. You can't be a good husband if you're not a good disciple. And you can't be a good father if you're not a good husband. And you can't be a good pastor if you're a married priest unless you're a good father to your children. If you switch any of those things, and it's very easy to do, especially when you're a young priest. You're a young priest, you get sent to a parish, and you have all these parishioners, they're all calling you father, which is rather challenging for your children, especially at the beginning. They're all calling you father, and they all have demands. And if you don't meet them, it's impossible as a priest to make everybody happy. It's impossible. You want to, like any good father does. You want everybody to be happy. You want to love them all, but you simply can't do it. You have hundreds of parishioners, and they all have needs. The temptation is, because they make the most noise, is to deal with the squeaky wheel. Your wife will just tough it up if you neglect her, usually, for a little while at least, right? Your kids, probably, your wife can make up for it, and the other siblings can help the siblings. And so a lot of times priests are tempted to take care of their parishioners to the point of exhaustion and to neglect their canona, to neglect their wife, and to neglect their children. This is the height of stupidity. The height of stupidity. No, priests have to learn very quickly that they can never make their parishioners happy. And sometimes, if they have a lot of kids, you can't make all your kids happy either. And sometimes you can't even make your wife happy. Sometimes. But you don't want to disappoint Christ, number one. Number one. You have to keep your priorities. You were Christ's before you were anyone else. If you're going to be a good husband, you got to stay close to Christ, which means you have to keep your prayers. You have to stay close to Him, period. Then you got to take care of your spouse. And make sure that you're being the kind of husband or wife that you need to be. And from that position, take care of the kids. The last thing in the world you want to do is model to your children that they're number one. If you want to ruin their souls forever, do that. Make your children number one in your house. Stupid. Is that obvious? Stupid with a capital S. The last thing you want to do is teach kids to be so self-centered. No, you teach them, I'm sorry, I'm committed to your mother more than you. You only exist because I love your mother. I didn't love your mother, you wouldn't even exist. So you should be happy that we're going on date night and you're getting a babysitter. And that's how it's going to be. My kids cry, I'm like, let me just rub those tears. Bye. Sayonara. The kids love it. They don't like it at first, but to see their parents love each other, so many times I come home from a date. We have date nights on Monday night. Come, what's the word? Hell or high water. I don't even know exactly what that means, but I know it means no matter what. And I heard that from my parents. We always have had a date on Monday night. There's nothing that's going to stop us from having a date on Monday night. Unless there's a great feast or something on Monday night. Then, because number one, my wife's number two, number one pushes it aside. My kids, they always complain. Oh, you're going on another date. I'm like, oh, yeah, we are. Mm-hmm. So we would go out, we would come home after the date, and we would come into the kitchen, and they would all run, did you bring us something? Usually we did. But first of all, I would come up behind their mom. I would walk into the kitchen, the kids would be all around, And I would look at them and I would put my arms around my wife. But she'd be looking at them, of course. But then I'd just grab her and I'd give her a big smooch on the neck or something, really something really juicy. And the kids would go, oh, 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 and they would cover their heads like this, but then they would all go like this. Because they wanted to see it. They're complaining because they want to be number one, but really they don't. They're so happy to see that their parents love each other. And that is how you inspire a desire for marriage in your children. It's not by putting the children number one, not by letting all the children come into your bed all the time. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. The bridal chamber is special for a reason and does not belong to children. That doesn't mean that you can't let them in here and there, but they have to know they have no right to that. They have their own bed. This is a sacred place. This is where mommy and daddy sleep together. And yeah, we'll let you in sometimes, but it doesn't belong to you. When we tell you to get out, get out. Get out. And then a husband also has to take care of his kids, even if it means disappointing some of the parish children or some of the parish parishioners. They should know that there's a time where they are going to be with their father every week. Besides having a date night, we had Thursday nights. Thursday nights we called family night. And on Thursday nights, we'd eat dinner together, we'd talk, we'd go for a walk in the neighborhood. My kids always knew if they didn't see me other nights, they're going to see me on Thursday night. They're going to have time, we're going to sit together, we're going to do something fun. And we always worked hard, even if we had no money, we always worked hard to take vacation together every year, somewhere. I would go with the kids, and we would spend time, and no phone, no tether attached to me in the parish, no, just with them, so that they could have a beautiful experience together and be happy that their father was a priest. So this is what I would say in answer to this. How do you do all of those things? Of course, you're never going to be doing any of them the way that you want. You have multiple responsibilities, but you have to keep them in order. Christ, your spouse, your children, and your vocation. And keeping them in that order is a great way to keep the Lord happy. If you don't like that, you're disagreeing with Bishop Basil, who gave me that advice, and man, has it been good for me. Parishioners have an objection to homeschooling because they think that by keeping their children in public schools, they follow the in the world but not of the world principle. Is that possible, or is that realistic? I don't think so. I don't think so. I used to be deeply suspicious of our public schools. Past that, not one of my 10 children spent a single day in public school. I myself went to public school. But public school, when I was going to school in the 1960s, was nothing like what public school is today, at least in California, and I don't think it's just California. I have been around the block for too many years. I've heard too many horror stories, and I've watched the loss of our children to the public schools and to the Orthodox faith for too many decades. Do you know this is a statistical fact? It's Pew Research, actually. They're pretty good about their stats. Of all Christian groups in America, the Orthodox are the most educated. That means we have the highest percentage of terminal degrees, and the most secular. The most educated and the most secular. That means that we have done the least to create uniquely Orthodox educational institutions, charitable institutions, etc. We are more American than the Americans. We want a little badge right here that says, we are American. What a stupid thing. And what a loss to us. What a total loss. We have stats also on the percentage of our young people that we lose to the practice of their faith when they go to secular universities. Off the charts. Off the charts, like more than 50%. I think 42% is the number that, this is maybe 10-year-old, this stat. 42% continue to practice their faith when they go to a secular university. If you knew that there was a greater than 50% chance for your kids are going to stop practicing their faith if they went to a university, if you knew that up front, would you send them? Who would do that? Who would do that? No, the secular schools in America are hostile. And if we don't think they're hostile, that's because we're ignorant. We don't spend it. We need to go to the universities. We need to find out. That doesn't mean you shouldn't ever send your kids there. I sent some of my kids to, I have 2 sons who are graduates of UC Berkeley. There's no more insane university in the United States than UC Berkeley. But I sent them there without any worries because they were very mature men. I have a great friend who's an Orthodox priest in the city of Berkeley, Father Edward Henderson, who I knew would form a great relationship with them, which he did. They knew exactly what they wanted to study. They both wanted to study classics. Classics at Berkeley is like one of the few subjects that's sane in Berkeley, and sure enough, they went there, and it was very fruitful experience for them. They have a great OCF there. As a matter of fact, the current Greek Metropolitan in England, Metropolitan Nikita, who used to be here, he was in Hong Kong too, he used to be here, but he happened to be in residence at the Orthodox Theogora Study Center in Berkeley during the years in which my son was there, so they actually got to be around Metropolitan Nikita too, who I liked very much. Yeah, so it was a good experience. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't go to secular universities. You can, but you have to go with intentionality. And if your children are not formed, if they haven't made the move from being Orthodox Christians because they're your children to, no, I'm an Orthodox Christian, period. Whatever you do, don't send them to secular colleges. They're going to lose themselves. They're going to absolutely lose themselves. And I have, what should I say, I have streams of tears in my own life from the number of parishioners who did not listen to me, who sent their kids to school, sometimes literally 100 yards down, which is the entrance to the University of California, Riverside from my parish. They literally were that close, and they stopped. The second they got onto campus, they stopped coming to church. The second. You know why? You know what the first thing that our secular schools do? In orientation, they don't orient you to study habits. They don't orient you where the library is. Let me show you where the books are. No, no. First question they ask them, please tell us your pronouns. They begin the propagation of woke ideology from the very first meeting on campus. And if you say, what are you talking about? If you show any discomfort, you get tagged and talked to by the administration. Oh, you're not with the program. You know that makes people feel bad if you act like there's only 2 sexes. Excuse me? Excuse me? I began years ago to do preparation for all the kids who were going to secular universities. I began a little thing. I did it with Father Kalinick Berger, who's a wonderful priest. He's an archimandrite now he's actually the archimandrite overseer under Metropolitan Sabbath in Wichita, Kansas. I'm going to see him soon on Sunday. He is great. He's done a pre-college weekend prep for years as a priest. And he came and worked with my young people also for years when he was in LA, preparing them for what they're going to see if they're going to secular universities, for what it's going to be like. You know, if you go to a secular university and you have never been in that kind of aggressive anti-God space before, it can be absolutely overwhelming. The first time my brother went to Berkeley, I actually applied to Berkeley, got into Berkeley and accepted, but I had an experience where I visited a local Christian liberal arts college called Westmont College in Santa Barbara. This is in the 80s when I went to university. And I had never been to a Christian college before. I had friends that were in college. I had never been there. And I had a buddy I played basketball with in high school who was a year older than me. So my senior year in high school, I went to visit him. He said, come up and see this place. You're going to love it. And I went up there and I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. It was just full of smiley young people who were Christians. And I told Berkeley, sayonara. I'm going there. And I didn't regret it at all. I loved it. I met my wife there, which would have been a reason to go for itself. So I drove up the first time my brother was at Berkeley. I drove up to see him. First time I had ever been to Berkeley. I drove up in the middle of the night from Santa Barbara, and I got there like 1 a.m. And he was sleeping. He told me, look, I'm on the 2nd floor. This is the room number of my dorm, whatever. So I'm come stumbling in, trying to figure out, oh, where's the room and what are you? I had to go to the bathroom so bad. So I went down, I went to the bathroom. And I'm just, doing what boys do in the bathroom. Next thing I know, there's a girl in the bathroom. I am like covered in shame. I'm like, oh no, I'm so tired. I went into the girls' bathroom. That's what I thought. So I got out of there as fast as I possibly could. I went back to my brother's room. He's still sleeping, completely out. I just throw my sleeping bag on the ground, and I sleep. The next morning, we wake up, and I said, man, you wouldn't believe what happened. He goes, what? He goes, I went into the wrong bathroom, and there was a girl in there, so embarrassing. And he just laughed at me. I'm like, matter of fact, I got to go now. So I go out. I jump in the bathroom again. It's like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. And I took a towel. I said, I'm going to take a quick shower, too, because I hadn't taken a shower. So I'm in the shower, and I'm having my shower, and then I hear singing in the stall next to me, female singing. I'm like, no! Did I do this? Did I do this again? Literally, I mean, if I had put my head up and looked down, I would have seen a naked girl taking a shower next to me. And I found out they're co-ed bathrooms. I mean, there is no boys' room and girls' room. There is a bathroom. And they have stalls instead of urinals. And they have showers right next to each other. They want you to think this is normal. There is not a culture in the history of the human race that would have said that's normal. That's insane. That's completely insane. But this is what you get. This is what you get. So any kids who are going to go to public schools, so-called public schools, you have to recognize what you're walking into. Indoctrination, satanic indoctrination camps. They are satanic indoctrination camps. That doesn't mean you can't go there and use them. You can, but you have to use them wisely. You have to know what you're doing. Go there to study under professors that you respect. Go there recognizing that they have been completely co-opted by secularism. There's a huge reevaluation right now going on in our culture about universities, a huge reevaluation. You know, the high school education has collapsed, so college is essentially what high school was when I was in high school. And that means that college degrees mean very little. Today, now you have to, back when I was young, to get a college degree meant something. Now it's like getting a high school diploma. So you go to college, it's equal to a high school diploma. Now if you want to stand out and get any decent job, you have to actually go get a master's. Masters are relatively easy to get compared to what they used to be. Now, master's degrees are so common that they are what college degrees are. And it's a humongous financial scam. I mean, you've been watching the news, right? You know how many millions and millions and millions of dollars the federal government gives to the public universities, and the public universities are run like business. Inflation has gone like this in the last 20 years. Tuition has gone like this in the last 20 years. Justify that. These are businesses. These are businesses masquerading as nonprofits, funding a lot of people. The administrations have become massively bloated. And real education is almost invisible. So if you want to get a good education today, you really need to be careful. You need to choose where you're going. You should know who you're going to study with. Don't just go to a name. Decide who you're going to study with. Find a good professor. Find an area you really want to study. Make sure that there's a good church near it. Make sure your kids know the priest of the church. Integrate into the church. Then it can be done. Also, the idea of starting uniquely orthodox education. This is basic. This is basic. We are the most wealthy and the most educated. Why do we not have this? Why do we not have this? Only because we don't care. We don't care about America. Sorry to say it, but it's a fact. And we need to care, because this is where we live. This is our land. And when you care, you invest. You invest. So I hope we will. I hope we'll do that. Until then, we have to be very careful where we put our kids. You spoke about the Christian family being infused with the light of Christ and hospitality as an outpouring of that. Ministries to which the Christian family are called, such as orphan care and other forms of hospitality, make the boundary around the Christian family permeable and can therefore expose us and our children to evil influences. What practically can or should we do to mitigate the risks inherent in Christian hospitality? That's a wonderful question too. But you heard, whoever was asking that, you no doubt heard what I was saying about Jesus' high priestly prayer in John 17 and the 3 prepositions he uses. Not of, but in and into. We're often forgetting the third. Not of and in, we get, but what about the into? How can you go into the world and bear the light of the Christ if we're always scared? If we're always worried about the great bad evils all around us? I'm sorry, the great big bad evils do exist, but they're no threat to us if you're devoted to Christ. We're not scared of them. The whole world lies in the power of the evil one, but the evil one is gutted. The evil one is defeated. We should have a great sense of being involved in an incredible mission. We should all have this sense that that the church is on a mission. And our mission is to save the world. Our mission is to win the world. Of course, you can't win the world if we haven't won ourselves. Right? We have to win our hearts. Our hearts have to be given to God. Parishes can't make a contribution to the community if we're not really sure we want to be Christians. But if parishes are fairly serious about that, we can make a tremendous impact in our local communities. You know, I heard it once said by the great Father Seraphim Rose. I just read a wonderful article that was written by Paul Kingsnorth. Have any of you discovered Paul Kingsnorth and his writings? He's on Substack. He's just a wonderful writer. He was a very deeply invested environmentalist secular activist in England for years. And then he had a radical conversion to Orthodox Christianity. He took his wife and his children, he moved to a farm in Ireland. And now he raises animals, tends his farm, and makes constant pilgrimage, identifying ancient pilgrimage sites all over England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, and writing about them, and also engaging intellectual conferences at a very high level. He's written a lot about artificial intelligence, about the environmental movement, etc. But he just this week published an amazing article on the life of Father Seraphim Rose, a disoriented Westerner who found his way to Holy Orthodoxy. He considers him the patron saint of lost Westerners. I thought it was a great article. Father Seraphim also, of course, I'm happy because he's the boast of California. He's a Methodist boy, went to school in Pomona, which is like 20 minutes from my house, and converted to Holy Orthodoxy. This is the time of St. John of San Francisco, in San Francisco. He was at Berkeley, speaking of Berkeley, studying Chinese literature with a very accomplished Chinese master, and became an Orthodox Christian. And then started a monastery with one of his friends, Father Herman, which is today St. Herman Monastery in Platina, a really beautiful monastery. It's under the Serbs now, has been for decades. They have an incredible press, St. Herman Press. Some of you read the Orthodox Word, I'm sure, or read their books. They actually published my doctoral dissertation. My first book that I published was Marriage and Virginity According to St. John Chrysostom, was published by St. Herman Press. But this same question was asked then. This is Father Seraphim reposed in his 40s in 1982. And in the late 70s to early 80s, he used to give these lectures called Spiritual Boot Camp to young college students who would come up to the monastery for a couple weeks. They'd bring their sleeping bag, and they would have services, you know, the full round of monastic services, and then he would give them these incredible lectures. Some of them are recorded, some of them are on tape. I'm particularly enthused about this because my brother-in-law, Dr. John Christie, who's a retired dentist in upstate New York, the first in our families to become Orthodox, and the one who reached out to me when I began to date his daughter, when I began to court Maria Catherine. She's the youngest of 6. This is her oldest brother. Her oldest brother did not want her marrying a Presbyterian. So he started sending me books and engaging me. He, Dr. John, when he was a college student, went to these boot camps with Father Seraphim Rose and got this kind of careful, loving instruction while he was in the middle of university, which really helped him to navigate, as an Orthodox Christian, the secularization of the campus and how to make the most of it and make a positive contribution. Father Seraphim has an answer to this question about how do you not get poisoned in the world, but how do you actually go? He says the way to understand it is under the image of inoculation. You have to think of yourself. How do you keep yourself from getting a deadly disease? You don't get it by just running away and keeping yourself from the deadly disease. No, you get a vaccination, you get an inoculation, which is a part of the disease. but a part you can handle so that your body can, it's a small application so that your body can get used to what that is. Your body can coagulate a response. Your white blood cells can identify this and treat it, and you can build up an immunity. And then when you encounter that disease later in life, you're immune to it. And it doesn't kill you. It doesn't do anything to you. He goes, the same thing has to happen spiritually. You can't shelter yourself completely from the darkness. You have to be involved with it. As a matter of fact, you have to be in it so that you can build up an understanding of it and an immunity against it and be untouchable by it. Some people think that the way to get through the disease is just run away from it and not get anywhere near it. That's a recipe for death. It's a recipe for death because you'll never build up a proper immunity. So principled exposure, thoughtful exposure. As parents, talking to our kids about what's going on. I remember before any of my kids got into college, I would take them as they were in their high school, and we would walk around the campus of University of California, Riverside. I said, let's go. And we would go for a walk. And I would just tell them, what do you see over there? I remember one time we pulled up, and there was, probably 1,000 kids in the square. And I said, tell me what you see. We just sat down, I said, tell me what you see. And they saw all sorts of interesting things. One of the things they noticed was everyone dressed the same. They were all in jeans and t-shirts, almost universally. Jeans, and doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. That is what you wore. Maybe the girls' t-shirts were a little bit shorter because they wanted to show off their midriff a little bit so that guys would look at them. But they were still wearing crappy clothes. Just the jeans and shorter t-shirts, maybe a little bit of their things were here. And guys wore more baggy stuff. I said, what does that mean to you? What is going on right there? And I helped them identify it. It's called anthropological crisis. This is an anthropological, no one knows what a boy is, and no one knows what a girl is. And I was absolutely true. I mean, this was 20 years ago. And you've seen it since, right? I mean, today now, really, they don't know. They think that you can actually just say you're one thing and get some surgeries, and all of a sudden you are that thing. And that's how literally insane we've become. No one understands sex and gender anymore. And that is a way to reinforce it. You go there, if you don't know you're a boy or a girl, you're going to go to a place like that, and they're going to ask you on the first day what your pronouns are. Do you have any surprise that some kids are getting surgeries? That girls are getting mastectomies? That people are taking cross-sex hormones? Besides all the immoral financial gain that goes to doctors who are really butchers, who are participating in this kind of thing. Okay, this is all part of the secular indoctrination. Satan is an incredible catechist, a very talented catechist. He's got a lot of money behind him. And if we are going to be in there, we can't just run away from it. I don't see it, I don't see anything, I hear nothing, I see nothing. That's stupidity. No, we need to inoculate ourselves. Study it, evaluate it, talk to our kids about it, so that we can help the people who are in it understand what it is and help people out of it. And tons of people are coming out of it right now. This is one thing that's happening all across the country. It's a mega renewal is going on right now, and it has nothing to do with us. It's not like we got together and our bishops said, let's save America. Nobody did that. We're not putting any money towards it. We don't have any plans. This is all from God. All from God and all from the burnout of secular culture. It's got so insane. People are pouring into the church right now, all across our land, because they've tasted the bitter pods of secular life, and they're done. They're done. And all they're doing is they go, wait, you guys are Orthodox? You mean you're still doing what you did 2,000 years ago? Whoa. We want to know about you. And they're coming into our churches. What can I do for a child who has a serious struggle which they have not had the courage to take to confession for years? That's the cry of a loving parent. I'll just say several things. Number one is 100% never give up. 100% never give up. Stay prayerful, and as long as you're praying, you're hoping. If you feel hopeless, that's because you're not authentically praying. You have to pray with your eyes open, right? You can't be asking God sincerely and then certain that he's not going to answer. That's not called prayer. It's called unbelief. right? So if you're praying, hope will remain alive, and that's what you need. Maybe one of the problems that your child is having isn't just about your child. Maybe it's about you. And maybe the Lord is actually allowing your child to go through a trial because he really is also trying to get to you. I've thought this many times in the troubles in my own family, in my own life. How many messages the Lord actually had for me and for my wife by the troubles of my children. He wasn't just trying to use us to help them. He was using them to help us. You know, if you look at it from our perspective, we view ourselves as the parents because we're the old ones, right? We've lived. And we're trying to help the young ones. From God's perspective, we're all little teeny kids, right? Maybe this one's a little bit older than this one, but he's trying through the dynamics of parenting and childhood to mature us all. He's trying to help us all grow up beautifully. And sometimes the problems of our children aren't just about them, but they're about us. And the quicker we can fix our problem, the quicker they can be fixed as well. So that would be an encouragement, is don't give up. If you're praying, you're hoping. Don't isolate the kid in your mind just that it's an independent thing just for the child, but remember that you're in a family. It has to do with us as well. And then always be honest. Don't allow a false normativity to settle on a situation that's not sustainable long term. It's one thing to not harass a child. It's something else to normalize something by not going to confession. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say your child's 15 years old, 16 years old. Maybe they've had an unfortunate addiction to pornography. And they've had a few times trying to break free from it, and they haven't been able to successfully do that. And so they're feeling down, and they don't want to go tell the priest again that they haven't been able to get rid of it. The last thing you want to do is just, and you know about it, right? You don't want to harass them. That's on one side. You don't want to harass them. Confession has to be free. And you don't want to bring it up every single time you're talking to them. It's not that. That is harassment. At the same time, you don't want to completely ignore it. You don't want to normalize it or consent to a poison stealing the happiness of your child. You don't want to consent to that. So you're going to have make it a matter of your prayer, and then you're going to have to come up with some agreement with yourself, maybe with your spouse, maybe with your spiritual father. When should I bring it up? When should I bring it up? Maybe whenever the fasts come around, when Lent comes around, or Advent comes around. That's a nice time to say, hey, honey, I don't want to bring this up. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but, I'm preparing my own confession, and I'm just wondering about this situation. How are you doing? How are you doing? Do you want to come with me? I'm going to go to confession myself. Can we go together and see Father and talk about this? Right? So there has to be a way in which you don't consent to just letting it stay there, but also you're not constantly bugging. God will show you what to do and how to do that. Could you say something about the relationship between Orthodox homeschooling and formal parochial schools? That's a great question. In the scriptures, the main responsibility for the education of children belongs to the parents. This is a fundamental teaching of the church. It is the responsibility of parents to educate their children. Parents have always used a variety of means of doing that. Their own instruction. Fathers are responsible to spiritually educate their kids, to read the scripture to their kids, to introduce them to the lives of the saints. That is our responsibility as dads. We don't have to have PhDs to do that. We don't have to have college degrees to do that. We have to just have love to do that. And there's never been a time with greater resources to do that today. Perhaps you've heard of this app. It's called Patristic Nectar. It's a really incredible app. It's a really incredible app that these decent people, most of them are decent, some aren't, these decent people have created that has all the lives of the saints professionally recorded, as well as catechetical lectures and all sorts of things. It's very easy to get kids to listen to it. They even have a channel called Patristic Nectar Kids that they're really sinking a lot of money into and trying to build up that channel. working for the education of your children is very, very important. And it's a parental responsibility. Parents often delegate that responsibility to a variety of educational programs and schools. So some parents feel very competent to homeschool their kids all the way through. Homeschooling is a massive movement. Over 2 million kids in the United States are homeschooled. It's a great happiness. As an American, I love this about us. There's no other country that is as committed to homeschooling as us in the whole world. There's a lot of countries, even formerly Christian countries, Western European, Central European countries, that don't even allow homeschooling, which is just statism that just, as an American, burns me. I'm going to have somebody in the state who doesn't even know my kids tell me how I have to educate my children. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. But thank God that's not America. It's not most places in America we don't have that. We don't have complete freedom. Complete freedom would mean that the government doesn't steal our money to fund the public schools. I have never had my kids in the public schools, but I have been paying through my property tax the salaries of the public school teachers my entire adult life. And believe me, I have steam coming out of my ears about it. It's so unjust. It's so unjust. Now, in the last 10 years, multiple states have voted for religious or school freedom, school choice. So, for instance, a lot of our Orthodox churches now in states like Florida are able to direct, the parishioners are able to direct their property tax money that previously went to the public schools to any school of their choice, including religious schools. And I was just telling Father that literally right now before the Supreme Court is an incredible test case of a Roman Catholic charter school that is before the Supremes to find out if religious charter schools are constitutional. It looks like the Supremes are going to say yes. And if they do, that's going to open the floodgates to school choice on principle as constitutional right all across the country. And even crazy states like mine, which 100% will take this to court and fight it, are going to lose if the Supremes pass this and grant that a Roman Catholic church can be, a school can be a charter school, which would be great if that's the case. As soon as that happens, then the possibility of directing your funds to a religious school, it's going to be very easy. When I was doing my doctoral work 20 plus years ago in England, we lived in the northern part of England. And our kids were little, we put our kids in all sorts of different schools. We put some in an Anglican school, we put some in a Catholic high school, we put some in just a normal English. They call it private school, but they mean what we mean by public. And it was all the same, because in England you can direct your portion of your taxes to whatever school you want for your kids. It's not like this some shocking innovation. This has been going on in many countries for a long time. This will help us greatly. This will help us greatly. It will allow our tax money to come back to us if you want to homeschool, so you'll be able to pay for curriculum and hire tutors if you want to do that as a homeschooler. It will allow you to support co-ops. It will allow you to put your kids in religious schools. The exact relationship between homeschooling and what is being called here former parochial schools. We don't have many formal parochial schools in America. We have some, about 30. About 30. That's a big distinction between us and the Latins. The Roman Catholics used to, when they came here and they started pouring in by immigration in the 1890s, they built on principle churches with schools because they knew that if their kids went to America's public schools, they're going to become Protestants. Today they'd become secularists, but back then they would have become Protestants. And they didn't want that, so they built on principle churches with their schools, and they allowed their people, as long as they were tithing, they allowed their people, and they were serious about it. There's still Roman Catholic dioceses where you have to show your tax forms and show that our people, they think tithing means giving. Tithing does not mean giving. Tithing is 10%. And if you gave 10% as a Catholic, you could go to school for free. They also had the benefits of huge numbers of monks and nuns, and that's how they were able to keep the cost down and be able to pay for their schools. Their school system from 1890 to 1955 exploded. In 1955, there were 6 million kids in Roman Catholic schools. 6 million. This is a time when the ascendancy of Catholicism was huge. just a few years before JFK, the first Catholic president. And remember that when he was running for president, Americans were freaked out because they saw the ascendancy of Roman Catholicism. Tons of people were converting. Tons of Hollywood actors were converting. The famous Roman Catholic Archbishop Fulton Sheen was the #1 watched TV personality in 1955 in America. And all he would do is give a theological lecture with his little funny beretta, and he would be writing on a chalkboard. He was brilliant. He had a PhD from the Louvain. He was just an incredible catechist. I've studied his life for years because he was such an effective catechist. And then, when President Kennedy was trying to become president, we made him publicly say that his Roman Catholic faith would not influence his moral decision-making. Can you imagine? Imagine someone asks you that. You're an Orthodox Christian. You're going to become president. Promise us that your orthodoxy will have nothing to do with your decision-making. What? You mean I'm a fake? You're wanting me to consent that I'm a hypocrite and that I've been lying the whole time, saying I am something, but I'm really not, and I'm just going to govern it like I'm a Protestant? I mean, please. That, because he had to do that, and because of the pressure that was placed, there became a period in the Roman Catholic Church that was completely a period of Americanization, over-Americanization. And you know what happened? They lost their salt. You know how many kids are in Roman Catholic schools today? Across the country? 1.5 million. That is a 75% drop since the middle of the 20th century. They have lost 3 out of 4, and of those 1.5 million, tons are not even Catholic. Tons are not even Catholic. This is how decimated the Catholic Church has become. It's a terrible over-Americanization. And even though we haven't over-Americanized, secularized, like the Catholics with regards to education, because we never did that. We started that way. We didn't build schools, except language schools. Our people came and they made Russian schools, they made Arabic schools, they made Greek schools, but not day schools. So we were over-secularized from the beginning. Today, in my opinion, one of the most important things that we can do is to actually build Orthodox schools. And that means supporting homeschooling and supporting day schools that are explicitly Orthodox. And I just did this in my own parish. So in my parish, we've had a homeschooling co-op for over 25 years. I think like 27 years. And it started out as 1 day a week, and then it became 2 days a week. And there's a lot of cool stuff going on the other days. And it became huge. It became very huge. We still had a lot of kids in private Christian schools. We still had a lot of kids in public schools. But more and more, we had our own kids with us, which I loved. And then I decided, you know what? Things had become so bad in our secular schools that we were going to start a school ourselves. And what I meant by that was not to negate our homeschooling co-op, but build a structure where we could accommodate our kids 5 days a week, if that's what they wanted. And so we did. 5 years ago, we started the St. Andrew Academy. And the governance structure of the St. Andrew Academy, which I'm hoping can function as a model for discussion at least, if not for execution, it might not be necessary in states that are more friendly to Christian schooling. But what we did is we created the St. Andrew Academy as an educational vendor that has a 5-day-a-week structure, but the curriculum is designed that no one class is taught more than 3 days. So there's a Monday. If you wanted to go 5 days, you can get a full education that way. If you want to go 3 days, you can. If you want to go 2 days, you can. Or if you want to do the majority of teaching yourself, and then you just want to come to my religion class, or you want to just come to the biology class because biology is above you, or you don't have a lab at home. You know, we ran into that when we were homeschooling our kids. You can. So we have this multi-layer tuition schedule that allows you to take a little or a lot or anything between and to change it around. Some families come and they have 5 kids and they want 3 of the kids to come 3 days a week and they want 2 kids to come 5 days a week. That's what they do. So we've been doing this. We started that 5 years ago. It's going very, very well. It also allows us not to have to register with the state as a private school. If we had to register with the state of California as a private school, oh, and by the way, usually when I say this part, parents are like, whoa, can the kids go to college? All the kids who have wanted to go to college have gone to college. All of our graduates so far, including this year, of our graduates, 2 are going to Berkeley, or at least they got into Berkeley and they're contemplating going to Berkeley. One's going to University of California, San Diego. I mean, all the top schools that people try to get their kids into. St. Andrew Academy is pumping them out. Hopefully they're going to go as the Orthodox Christians we've invested in them to be. But what this structure has allowed us to do is not have to register with the state of California as a private school. So when you come to our school, every single student has on record what's called a PSA, a private school affidavit. This means that the parents are technically homeschoolers, and they are hiring us as their vendor. They bring their kids as they want. If it's 5 days, it's 5 days. If it's 3 days, it's 3 days. If it's 2 days, it's 2 days. If it's 1 class per week, it's 1 class per week. We keep a record so that if anyone asks us, and they have, we can show them, no, these are all private homeschool kids. We have a homeschool co-op here for more than 25 years. The city knows about it, and they're like, wonderful, wonderful. It worked. I met with an educational lawyer before we launched the school. He said, this is a great way to do it, and it has the most legal protection, and it's worked fine for us. These are all ways that we can have, I think, the right mentality of appreciating a multiplicity of forms of education with one goal, which is the beautiful formation of Orthodox Christians who are well educated and formed as people. This is our goal in education, and there are multiple ways to do it. To have competition between the ways is not too healthy, I don't think. I don't think there's a way. I think there's a multiplicity of ways. We're joined by our common desire about what the end output is. And if we can create paradigms like this, I think it's very healthy. But we need to do it. One paradigm that's not healthy is just sending our kids to the public schools and universities. It's not a paradigm that has worked for us. That's my last question, Abu. Yeah, should I take the question from him?
So the model you're talking about, obviously some vision, some design around that. Is the lack of us having more of those, is it funding or is it vision? Is it energy from the people? Kind of what's missing?
It's a great question, and I'm no expert. I'm only telling you from my perspective, so let me just say that qualification. It's vision. In my opinion, it's 100% vision. We must be here. We must be here, and we're not. We're less here today than when I was ordained 32 years ago. When I was ordained 32 years ago, Metropolitan Philip, God rest his soul, loved America, read the founding fathers of America, insisted on starting English language churches, and was promoting big-time engagement with the culture. He was looking at the culture, and he was saying, America, I don't know if you guys were around when Metropolitan Philip was around, but he literally called America to Orthodoxy, publicly, many times. He wanted all people to become Orthodox. He was engaging with religious groups. I mean, there was a rush. In the 80s and the 90s, there was a rush. When I went to my first priest gathering, I met tons of former Presbyterians, tons of former Lutheran pastors, tons of Episcopal pastors, tons of former Roman Catholic priests. They're all Orthodox. They were all reached out to, evangelized, helped in. We used to have conferences. We used to go, we have a convention every 2 years. Our conventions, they always climax in a General Assembly. Today we have it over the course of 2 days. And all of our departments give reports about the ministries that they've been doing so that we can all be updated on them. I used to wait on the edge of my seat for the Department of Missions and Evangelism to come up because they would put on a huge screen, I mean we're in the Marriott hotels, conference centers, right? A huge screen, a map of the United States. And color-coded dots These are new churches since the last 2 years, because we have conventions every 2 years. These are the new churches that have been built in the last 2 years. These are the new missions that have been formed. These have priests, and they have formal mission status, which means at least 25 people, or maybe it's families. Okay. Families, 25 families. And then mission stations. So we had new churches. Like green, I think, was where are already established churches, then new churches, then mission stations. And every year it'd be 12 new, 21 new. I mean, this is how it was, year after year after year after year. At the same time that was happening, our bishops were meeting together, and in 1994, they got together and did, in my mind, the greatest thing that had ever happened in the history of American Orthodoxy. All the bishops got together. At that time, there was 29. Today, there's 56. 29, and they issued 2 statements. One was a statement on unity, and one was a statement on evangelization. In the statement on unity, they said, we are one American Orthodox Church. One. We will no longer allow ourselves the scandal of disobeying the canons of the First Ecumenical Council, which says there must be only one bishop in one city. Do you know how many bishops we have in Chicago? 8. That looks like 7. Whoopsie, that doesn't work. They said, they declared, we need to do this. Right? Everybody knew it. Metropolitan Philip had been championing it. Archbishop Iakovos, who was the most influential bishop in America, the head of the Greek Archdiocese, who was in his prime at that time, he was like almost 80 years old. They all did it. And then they declared, in their statement on evangelization, they declared all of America a mission field and basically said to America, come home to the faith of Peter and Paul. Be at peace. And wow, we were exploding. We were absolutely exploding. This is the mid-90s. By 2005, it was over. By 2005, we had grown, our archdiocese had grown. We had gone from 2 bishops to 8 bishops. They had all been enthroned as local diocesan bishops. And then something happened, which I have my opinions about. It's not too edifying to talk about. But Metropolitan Philip, he always said he was going to retire when he was 75. He said that that's a good principle and that he should do that. And he didn't. And then the relationships began to crumble, and that vision was stopped. And we have been going backwards ever since. We have been going backwards. So we have no formal evangelization plan. We don't hear that part of our assemblies, 0. We never hear about it anymore. We have never been more disunited, ever. And the consequence of that is incredible decline. So we saw from 2005 until just 5 years ago, the population of Orthodoxy was tanking in America. Tanking. In the last 5 years, since COVID, it's exploding. But notice, it has nothing to do with any intentional effort on our part. This is the mercy of God. This is the Holy Spirit calling people to the church. I'm hoping, with all the people coming in, that it will wake us priests and the bishops up to take the leadership, to have the vision that we really need, which is to be the church here and not to plunder America for foreign interests. Because that's how America looks at us. Because we insist on putting our little name in front of the word Orthodox, I'm Greek Orthodox, I'm Russian Orthodox, I'm Romanian Orthodox, I'm Antiochian. Forgive me, that's nonsense. That is nonsense. And it's also completely disobedient. All of our patriarchs have said in public that there should be one American Orthodox Church. They've all said it. Our late patriarch, Ignatius IV, actually wrote out a treatise. I visited him in the Patriarchate. He actually told me how it should be done. He wanted 3 autocephalous churches: an American Orthodox Church, a Canadian Orthodox Church, and a Mexican Orthodox Church. And here's how he's going to do it, and here are the churches. We know that this is absolutely God's will, and we've been running from it because of no vision, no courage. And I'm hoping that what's going on now will be a spark. All these people pouring into the church. This is a great time. This is a great time. We can say, thank you, Lord, for doing this despite ourselves. Right? We didn't do anything, and the Lord's sending us all these beautiful people. And they aren't coming here because they want to be Greek and Antiochian and Russian. They don't care at all. They want to be Orthodox. And if we take care of them, maybe we could solve this problem and make everything a lot better. Everything a lot better for us.
Father, thank you. We have to pick up our children now.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.